Greetings, everybody. Episode 2 of the Champion Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Don John, and I'm here with, honestly, in my completely biased opinion, the best coach in the state of New Jersey, just coming off yet another national championship, a Golden Glove champion himself, and honestly, just one of the best dudes you'll ever meet, Coach Michael Micciulli.
Thank you, John. Part of the best boxing coaching staff in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Because this is a team effort.
Yes,
It's a
sir.
state championship. You
Yes.
get the gloves for the state championship and the diamonds. So, thank you. Thank you for having me here. You got some questions for me?
Yes, sir.
Let them rip.
Alrighty. So before I even get into the questions, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge somebody who's near and dear to both of us, and that's Pop. And if it wasn't for him, Coach Mike wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here because actually, this is my first time telling you this story. Pop was the first person that I spoke to from this gym because when Coach Wendell brought me over here, he already had a relationship with Pop.
Oh, okay.
So
My father got a lot of relationships with a lot of people.
yeah, so we had sat in the car and we were just talking, and Pop was just like, "Oh, so you're about to fight?" I'm like, "Yeah. What weight you fight at?" And I was just like, "I'm about to fight at 165." And he just looked at me and he's just like, "Oh man, your opponent's in trouble." So rest in peace to Pop. You're an amazing man, and your presence is felt even to this day.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that.
So this is the Champion Mindset Podcast. So my first question to you would be, what is it that you're trying to champion in your boxing journey, both as a fighter and as a coach?
Good question. It's honestly just being, just giving it all, giving it your all. No matter what you do, it could be boxing, or just in life. So, from what I've seen working with all different types of fighters that don't necessarily have the fighting instinct right away, but they have the drive and the goal. And when you put that work in, it just shows. It shows. You can see, like we were joking about today, when we were just saying, guys, what you don't do in the dark always shows up in the light, right? So when the lights are on, and you didn't do those runners, and you didn't do the sprints, you didn't do those heavy bag work, and when the coaches turned their back and you took a break, that's all on you. You're gonna see that. And the ones that really put themselves, and I can speak for you, it's for you. You did that work. You can still work on all different techniques and everything like that, but you can't. Fighters are born, right? So something needs to pull it out of them. So you could teach somebody a 1,000 different combinations, but you can't teach them how to be a fighter. That's something they're gonna learn. And sometimes it's trial by fire that comes out, and sometimes it gets exposed that they're not that person. They can be a great athlete, but if they're not a fighter, this is the wrong business for them. And that goes into the corporate world. That goes into life. If you don't have that fight, it goes back to the fight or flight, right? You're gonna run away from things in life, and you just have to give it your all in everything you do, and you'll get good results. It may not be 100%, but you're gonna be in the high 80s to 90% if you live your life that way. So that's my mindset in life and in the sport.
That's awesome, Coach. That's awesome, Coach. I'm glad you mentioned, the internal makeup of being a fighter. So I guess the next question that I would have to follow up with is, what are the characteristics that exemplify what you would call a fighter?
A fighter?
Just in life, not even just in boxing.
Someone that's resilient, someone that could get knocked down, someone that could, be told no, be told that they're not the right person for the job, be told that they're not ready to do something, and that just works their way and just shows people without having to argue. They don't have to show anybody. They don't have to speak. Just actions speak louder than words. It's an old saying, but it's the truth. If you just put your head down and you do the work, that's a fighter. That's a fighter in corporate, regular life, in the ring. Someone that's not going to be deterred or told no. If they're going to stop, it's going to be on their own. It's not going to stop. Nothing else is going to stop them. They're going to choose to not do it. No one else is going to tell them not to.
Amen to that, Coach. Amen to that, Coach. So, obviously, we talked about what exemplifies a fighter in general. But obviously, as you know better than anybody, there's levels.
Absolutely.
There's levels. So, what do you think is the key characteristics that differentiate, I'm going to call them mediocre fighters, to a decent fighter, to a champion? What do you think the key differences are?
Again, it goes back to the work. It goes back to the work and being coachable, right? Not everybody knows everything, and that's what I think. And that's why when you open this segment up, I think when I said that about being the best team, coaching team in New Jersey, nothing on other gyms, but we work together. We fit perfectly. So what one coach doesn't pick up on, the other coach picks up on, and you'll see it when the other, it's a little, a lot of words, but when the other coach leaves, one of our coaches will walk back in, and you've probably gone through this 1,000 times, that coach will say the same exact thing that the other coach said. We don't have to be in the same room. We just click. And you have to be coachable. As a fighter, you have to be coachable. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you say, oh, I know, you don't gotta tell me that, I know, you don't gotta tell me that, I could do that, this might work better. Remember, we're the cheat code, right? We're in the corner. We see everything that you're not seeing. And you're feeling things that we don't feel, so you know the reactions and all that. But from being in there myself, and I've gone through not listening and listening, and believe me, listening works a lot better. So being coachable is one of the things that make the elite. Plus, put in the hard work. Listen, everybody can run miles, everybody can do bag drills, everybody can do mitts, everybody can spar. It's being coachable and knowing how to adapt. You have to be able to adapt and change when it's needed. You can't be a one-trick pony.
Absolutely. You hear that, audience? I know that was for the audience, but honestly, I'm gonna segment that and I'm gonna save that for myself because that was gold. So, when it comes to being a coach, right? You mentioned how your eye as a fighter contributes to your eye as a coach. Do you feel like that's a necessity in order to be a great coach?
I believe so. I mean, you have people that have love for the sport and they understand the sport, but to truly understand something, I feel you had to be involved in every aspect of it, right? So if you don't know what it feels like to get in there and get your name called, just to walk up the steps, to go see the doctor, to weigh in, to have to cut weight, to maybe get an 8 count. And now you feel the hear the crowd. Someone throwing a punch, you block it, and the crowd moving on. You know it didn't land, but now you got to go get back because you don't know if the judges or if the ref's going to give you, like I said, the 8 counts. So I think you need to know how as a fighter how you react to those situations, how to coach your fighter through those situations when they get back to the corner. How to say, listen, I know how that feels. So what would have helped me when I was going through those things if I ever went through that? I think it's so important to have. You don't have to, but I feel the best coaches and the best refs and the best judges have been fighters themselves.
So, America has produced by far the most world champions out of any country, by far. But we haven't had a gold medal in the amateurs since 2004.
Well, male.
Yeah, I'm sorry, women, but this is a male platform. This platform is building focused men. I am so sorry. I'm not kicking you out. You could always stay if you would like to. But this is building focused men over here. So we haven't won a gold medal since 2004, Coach. And it's getting crazy because a lot of fighters that, get to the world scene, they'll lose at the Worlds or lose at the Olympics, and then they'll go on and become world champions at the next level. What is it that is translating in the pros clearly when it comes to our developmental system that isn't translating at the amateur level?
I know I'm going to get some stuff for this, but it's the way that USA Boxing on that elite level is changing things. If you go back to when we did dominate, when we did win gold medals, every one of our boxers had their own style that got them there. And all they did when we had coaches that understood that was critique them a little bit, make them a little bit better with certain aspects of their game. not trying to change their whole fighting style. So what we're experiencing now is we have a team in place that they're teaching them all to fight the same way, which is not how they came up and got to the level that earned them the right to be there. And once the other countries figure out that one style, you beat the whole team. And what happens, to your point of when they turn pro, they go back to their old coaches. And they go back to their old style. And they become world champions, or they're better in the pros than they were in the international scene. Because they're comfortable. It's very hard to take someone that's been, and most of the time, unless you have phenoms like Tyreek and Malachi, that have only been boxing 6 and 4 years at that level. You get guys since they're 4 years old, 6, 8 years old, learning a certain style, being obviously successful in that style, and then being brought up to a camp and told you have to switch everything up. We also had, and everybody that knows me knows I'm not, it's going to sound crazy because usually when you say things, it's not being prejudiced, but then that's probably when the most prejudiced stuff comes out. We had our own homegrown coaches that understand. Right now we currently have a coach that's from another country. In all honesty, if he was that guy, he would be that guy in that country, right?
Yeah.
So I just don't understand why we don't have our own homegrown coaches. There's a lot of talent out there. I know there's people that have tried, and they just supposedly they don't have enough experience. So I mean, that I think is the biggest problem, and that's why I think it doesn't transition to our amateur system creating gold medalists.
Okay. But one thing I will say about our amateur boxing program is, me just speaking on my own boxing journey, I always felt as though the amateurs was to prepare you for the pros. You know what I mean? So even though we're not necessarily having the same success at the amateur level, when it comes to developing pros, this scoring system of which is in place for USA Boxing, scoring based off of punches scored in the target area, ring generalship, and competitiveness. These are 3 aspects that just translate to being a great pro. So I will say, with all of the issues that we are having at the international scene, at the amateur level, we're still developing great pros, and I still feel like USA Boxing is an effective program when it comes to developing fighters to the ultimate goal, which is becoming world champions. So the following question that I would have is, obviously you come from a family of 3 generations of champions, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to championing a generation, no one can speak on it more than you. Real talk. So what do you think it was that your father passed down to you that you were able to pass down to Anthony Micciulli, GQ, 2-time state champion? How are you, what was it that translated from what he taught you to what you taught him? And then what is it that you all have that kind of conjuncted together to you all becoming champions?
So I think the answer to that question was an answer to one of the previous questions that you had. It's being a fighter or not being a fighter. Being told you could do something or you can't do something. Let people control you, or you don't let them control you. Putting in the work. So all that contributes to all of us having success. My dad actually started boxing after me. So, but we did share in common boxing. So when I was younger, we used to watch Meldrick Taylor Chavez. We used to watch Marvelous Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, Hearns, Mike Tyson. Like he had on VHS Riddick Bowe, Holyfield, Tyson, Razor Ruddock, 1 and 2. So it was always in my house. It was always in my family, boxing. Unfortunately in my neighborhood, we didn't have a boxing gym. So I didn't start boxing until in my late 20s when I moved out to Jersey. I already had my oldest son and Anthony. I think when I had my first few fights, I think Anthony was less than a year old. So but that was the mindset he always instilled in me because I played baseball when I was younger. And again, you're only 5'6", you're not going to be able to play, play at a high level of baseball because of your size. I got all the way up until a tryout for the Brooklyn Cyclones, and I chose to go to a trade school instead because, and that's the only time I got to say I let that get into my head, because I was like, you know what, let me take this trade school opportunity now, because I have, I may be the best in this borough, I may be the best in the, on the East Coast at my position, but that doesn't mean I'm the best in the world. And I'm competing for slots against the world. There's only like a 2% chance of me. So I went with the trade school. Thank God I have a nice career now. But it was that nobody telling me no. No one telling. My father came from a very rough, background. He wound up going to Vietnam, and he had his 18th birthday in Saigon. So that fight is just inbred. It's there. And then I brought it up with Anthony. It was the same thing with him. Football, he kind of deterred away from football. He was playing that. He saw me box since he was little. And he just said, being looked at as, he was always used in practice because he was strong, he was athletic, and they never really played him. And he was good. But again, going with the height thing, the size thing, so he would just turn around and say, Dad, listen, I just want to win and lose on my own. Would you mind if take me to the gym? I want to box. So I said, okay, but this isn't football. And like they're saying, you could play all the other sports in the world, but you can't play boxing. So I said, all right, and we came, and I brought him to. I didn't take him myself. I brought him to Coach Jackie. I said, here you go. You tell me, and because he was always, always play around, hit the mitts and stuff. And she was like, no, he definitely has reflexes there. And then even from there, Coach Paul, shout out to Coach Paul. Coach Paul, worked with him for his first bouts and stuff like that. And then we all transitioned. We all helped each other. Even when I had the birth last year of my son Michael, Coach Paul and Coach Desmond stepped in and was cornering. I think you fought on that same card.
My fight.
Your fight and Anthony's fight in the Golden Gloves, right?
We got the win, by the way.
Yep. So it's just being told, being a fighter and being a champion is not not allowing anybody to tell you can't do something. And that's, like I said, that's why that answer is the same as the other answers. I know it's repetitive to you, but it goes on in life. That's a fighter, that's a champion. And my wife will want to kill me, but Mike will be a champion, and and my future daughter, she'll be a champion too. So
yeah, I mean, they're going to be champions because they're going to tune into the Champion Mindset podcast.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And just to piggyback off of what you're saying, in my own personal journey, I played soccer at a very, very high level. I made it all the way to the state team for Florida, and Florida is one of the best states when it comes to soccer. And I'll never forget this. A coach, my final coach for soccer, had told me that after missing a few shots, mentally I wasn't in it, and he beat me down like he was grilling me. He's like, you ain't never gonna play in college, right? And I let that psychologically break me, and I regret that to this day. I went to college, and during my time there, I was going through things, and I had actually gotten kicked out of school, and it stripped me of everything. It made me go back into who I was at my core. And at my core, I'm a fighter. You know what I mean? I started watching all the old champions get inspired and whatnot, and then I got back to school, and boxing was my outlet of staying focused on school. I finished school with a degree in communications and media. So I want to use my know-how in that in order to build a platform for what's real, And, everything that we have going on in this building is what's real,
Absolutely.
And it absolutely deserves a platform, Coach.
Yeah. And it definitely, our gyms, not because we're here, I've been in different gyms. And it's not a knock on any of the coaching. I just think even if we go to our, if you go to this our sister or brother gym in Brooklyn, every coach has his own locker, every coach has his own set of clients, they're very separate. And here it's just when people say, oh, we're family, it's truly a family. We're over each other's houses, we have holidays together. So everybody knows there's nothing in it. There's no shadiness behind anything we do. Everything, we're not doing it to get something. We're not doing it to put a spotlight on us. We're doing it because we care. Like I've told, everybody, I think I've told all the fighters this, but it's true. We want to see everybody that wants to turn pro and be a world champion. We may not be along for that full journey, right? They may have other coaches in mind, they may have other training staff in mind, but as long as I see them, when we see them win, I think I can speak for everybody, we could be in the corner, front row, nosebleeds, or at home watching. As long as we see them become successful, I feel like we be world champions. As long as that happens, then I'll be happy. Our job, mission complete, right? Our job is done. And if it's not in the boxing and we see them successful 10, 15 years from now with a wife, family, and kids, and they're happy and they're coaching, then that's a gift from God as well. So, I just feel like our gym stands out a little bit more than other gyms.
I can't speak for anybody, but I can speak for myself. And I'll say this, Coach. For as long as I'm wearing a pair of gloves, you're going to be the one in my corner. 100%. I don't care who they have in mind for me. They better get them out of them.
And I'll be there. But it's a team. It's a team. It's really like all the wins we had, all the wins we continue to get. But, I think our first full year as a full coaching staff was 2024, and it just showed. It just showed what we can do. We had 4 Golden Glove champions, 4 Diamond Glove champions. We had national Golden Glove champion. We had 2 national champions, national wins. So it just shows when you put the right people, you have the right formula. Like Coach Denard is amazing. Coach Desmond's amazing. Coach Jackie's finally able to sit back and say, all right, you guys, you got it. Go do what you have to do. It's nice. And having good relationships with the rest of the gyms is really important as well. I find like traveling with the team, because we can fight each other all year long. We compete against each other, but when we're away, like we were just in Texas, it's Team New Jersey. If we're away, on the international scene, we're watching our guys, it's USA. So, being able to have a team like we have that can go travel and get along with all other coaches and set up sparring and not trash talk and not have all that animosity with each other is really, really important. And it's not that easy to break through. It's really not that easy to break through, and I think we're doing a good job at it.
No, 100%. I gotta say, when it comes to the consistency of you being able to set up sparring with other gyms and it going according to plan, none of that crazy trash talking and things getting out of hand and things getting to a level that it doesn't need to get to, keeping it within the sport. Not only have you done a great job, but all the coaches that have worked with you and all the fighters that have come here and worked with me, I have to say we have a great thing going on here at Gleason's when it comes to the competitive sparring and being able to work with other gyms in the area. And I really hope that the other gyms continue to come work with me, because I am open to any and all types of work.
No, we're definitely going to have stuff. I think today Gladiator, shout out to Gladiator Gym, they sent me a group text, actually. So we're going to use that platform to set up sparring in different gyms, and hopefully we'll bring some gyms here. We'll set up maybe a Saturday, Tuesday or Saturday, because Tuesday nights, too many people, doesn't work, so we might do a Saturday or something like that.
I'll be there. So you 165s and 154s, come over to Gleason's, you can get some solid work in. So I guess the last thing that I would ask you is your involvement in Gleason's. What do you think is the main point when it comes to your growth? Like what exactly is the main aspect of your life do you feel grew the most in your journey with Gleason's?
I think it's funny, like it's a calm violence, right? So I think it's calm, as being a coach, calmed me down a lot. So it made me go from a person that I don't even want to hear, don't give me any excuses, to really taking a second to see, hey, listen, everybody has their own struggles. Let me see what's going on with the person today. Sitting down, talking to them. Because listen, again, anybody can hold pads, anybody can give instructions, but you have to care. And this Gleason's, Coach Jackie, again, all the fighters, Desmond, Denard, Coach Denard, Coach Paul, being around a group of not only great coaches, great people, makes you a great person. So it's like, right, what do they say? You hang out with dogs, you get fleas, right?
Yeah.
You hang out with great people, you get great. And honestly, I think like this place has made me a better person all around, and just being able to see with different eyes. Let's just put it that way. I see things a lot different now than I did. Boxing's a funny sport, so things sometimes they can slam doors in your face, and sometimes doors are open. Sometimes depending on how you look. know, the outside world's that way, but sometimes in reverse. You know, so just seeing things through different eyes and being able to really get to understand people and understand their struggles and their journeys and what brought you guys all to one common place. You know, Coach Paul always talks about how you could have one place that people have, you know, made a wrong turn in life and maybe unfortunately were incarcerated for a little while, and their coach is a cop. So they could have that hate initially for somebody, and then they build a father-son relationship.
Yeah.
So, you know, this place has really opened my eyes to a lot of different things, and it just made me a better person. And hopefully, in turn, I could help people become better in life and in whatever aspect they choose.
That's amazing, Coach Megan. That's amazing, Coach. Actually, I have one more question. So, when you look at the sport of boxing itself, obviously it has a deep history. In my humble opinion, I feel as though boxing has had the deepest and most intriguing history in the history of sports, right? When you look at Michael Micciulli, where do you see the sport when your journey is all said and done being because of Michael Micciulli's influence?
That's a hard one because it's a hard one because that's like almost to me doesn't seem realistic, you know, because when you look at the history of boxing and you look at, you know, the greats, the coaches, the great fighters, and to put yourself that somebody might even mention your name is, I can't even fathom that, but you know, I would think that, you know, at the end of the day they would, you know, turn around and say, hey, he was a good fighter, better coach, great person. So that I would be happy with that. And I know what we're producing here, we're going to produce world champions. I know, so if I'm along with that for any bit of the ride, I'm happy. You know, so I think that would be it. I think, you know, just to be remembered in that way would be cool. You know, because my dad always said it. You know, he always said, wow, you know, especially with all you guys and how talented you guys are, and especially, you know, he had a little thing with Tyree. He goes, he looks like Muhammad Ali. He goes, he's going to be a world champion. And we're going to get to say we knew a world champion. I said, Dad, we're going to get to say we knew a lot of world champions. And he goes, yeah, you're right. So, but again, like I said, good fighter, you know, good coach, better person. I think that's how I like to be remembered in the sport.
Awesome, Coach.
Yeah.
Awesome, Coach. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap it up. This is Don John at the Champion Mindset Podcast. I'm with Michael Micciulli. Like I said, the best coach alongside the best coaching staff in New Jersey. And you better tune in next time because I'm going to have some more heat coming for you. Alrighty, y'all. Y'all have a blessed new year.